in the same location. At this time, I also welcome members of the public accessing this meeting remotely. Even though this meeting is being conducted in a unique manner under unusual circumstances, the usual rules of conduct and decorum apply. Any person found to be disrupting this meeting will be asked to cease the disruption. Should the disruptive behavior continue thereafter, that person will be removed from this meeting. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. So we'll start the meeting by taking roll call attendance. And when each member states a name, please state whether there is anyone in the room with you which is required under the right to know law. Start off with Linda.
Linda Murray, I'm in a room by myself in my house.
Thank you. Dave Sonical.
Yeah, Dave Sonical, I'm in a room by myself.
Thank you.
At
Dave
my home.
Bowers.
I'm in a room by myself. Christy probably won't be in and out.
Thank you, Dave. Paul.
Good evening, Paul O'Brien. I'm at my home in a room by myself.
Thank you. And I'm Brad Harriman. I'm also at home in a room by myself. Okay, Mr. Pinio, do we have a need for non-public this evening?
Mr. Chairman, I do not have anything for non-public this evening.
Oh,
2 in a row. Wow.
wow.
Next
Good.
week.
Okay. Next, our agenda is consideration of minutes. We have January 20th, 21 minutes here with us. Any comments, corrections?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Senical?
Yes.
Dave Bowers?
Yes.
Paul O'Brien?
Yes.
And Brad Harriman votes yes also. No, I don't have the February 3rd minutes in my packet. Did everybody else get them, or?
Amy emailed them out this afternoon. Maybe we table those, Mr. Chairman.
I think that'd be a wise decision. Table. Yep.
Are you making that motion, Paul?
I think I just did, yes.
And then I'll second.
There you go.
Yeah, motion second to table the February 3rd minutes to our next meeting. Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Sonical?
Yes.
Dave Bowers? Paul O'Brien?
Yes.
And Brett Harrell votes yes also. Okay, we have a few public hearings tonight, temporary event permits. First one, the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen to consider a temporary event permit for On the Green 1 Arts and Crafts Festival at 80 Academy Drive, DeWolf Field, on July 9th to 11th, 2021, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., which is a Friday and Saturday, and then 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Sunday. Do we have somebody with us here to present this to us?
Yes, Christine Brown from Brewster. Hello, it's really great to see you from my kitchen. This is an annual event that has been going on for a number of years, except at Brewster last year we had to close because of COVID restrictions, as you're probably well aware. This is an event where we have arts and crafts vendors and then some snack foods. It will be socially distanced as according to the COVID regulations that will be put forth by the New Hampshire Department of Health. And proceeds go to day student scholarships.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Mm-hmm. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. Anybody out in the audience have any questions or comments on this this event? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Board members, any questions or comments for Christine?
There's only one comment written on the application coming back from our department heads that says the tents must be flame resistant, and I think they usually are, but that's just noted here.
Okay, would somebody like to make a motion for this one?
I can do it. I move to approve a temporary event permit for On the Green One Arts and Craft Festival at 80 Academy Drive, DeWolf Field, on July 9th through the 11th, 2021, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Friday and Saturday, and 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Sunday, contingent upon following any COVID-19 guidelines at that time.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second to approve this event. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll have a roll call vote. Linda? I don't know if I missed you, if you froze up, Linda. Okay. That's a yes. Okay.
Yeah, I'm freezing on and off, so, yes.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Dave Senical?
Yeah.
Dave Bowers?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
And Brad votes yes also. Okay, thank you. We have the next one. Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen to consider a temporary event permit for On the Green 2 Arts and Crafts Festival at 80 Academy Drive, DeWolf Field, on August 13th to the 15th, 2021, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Friday and Saturday, and 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Sunday. So, Christine, I'm assuming you're going to speak to this one again.
Yes, I'm going to say ditto. Same thing, different day.
Okay. So at this time, I'll open up the public hearing to the public out there. If anybody has any comments or questions. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Board members? I just say we have the exact same comment as we had in our other one there about the tents being flame resistant, and which is part of the which you know anyway. So I'd entertain a motion for this one.
I'll move to approve a temporary event permit for On the Green 2 Arts and Crafts Festival at 80 Academy Drive, DeWolf Field, on August 13th to the 15th, 2021, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Friday and Saturday, and 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Sunday, contingent upon following any COVID-19 guidelines at that time.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this one. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Senical?
Yes?
Dave Bowers?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
And Brad votes yes also. All right, thank you, Christine. Hope for good weather for those 2 weekends for you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our next public hearing for an event is the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen to consider a temporary event permit for the First Congregational Church of Wolfeboro to hold Easter sunrise worship service on April 4th, 2021, from 4:45 a.m. to 7 a.m. at Albee Beach. We have somebody here that's going to speak to us about this one.
Yes, I'm David Holden. I'm a deacon at the church. This is the same request that we have submitted annually. We weren't able to do it last year, obviously, because of COVID, and we're covering the bases in case that something positive can come out of this.
Okay. All right, this time I'll open up the public hearing. Anybody out in the public wish to make a comment or ask any questions on this this event? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Board members, any questions, comments, or motions?
I'll move to approve a temporary event permit for the First Congregational Church of Wolfeboro to host Easter sunrise worship service on April 4th, 2021, from 4:45 a.m. to 7 a.m. at Albee Beach, contingent upon any COVID-19 guidelines at that time.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve this event. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Senical?
Yes,
Dave Bowers?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
And Brad votes yes also. Okay. Next one we have on our agenda is the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen to consider a temporary event permit for the First Congregational Church of Wolfeboro to host morning worship services from May 2nd to the 31st, 2021, from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., 8:30 to 9:30 a.m., and June 1st, October 31st, 2021, from 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. I didn't say it, but I believe these are going to be held at Cape Park, if I recall reading this right. Yes. Dave, are you going to present this one to us also?
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, this is at Cape Park. The summer months are the ones that we have normally been holding and you have approved in the past. And it is no different than in the past, except that hopefully this year we might be able to actually do it. The request for May is in anticipation that there might be able to be some Sunday services in the morning. We understand the town likes to have the park available after this time, so we've changed the hours to reflect what we hope would be workable. And I'm available if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll open up the public hearing to the audience. If everybody has any questions or comments. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Board members, any questions, comments about the hours of the services and stuff, as he mentioned? Or motion to approve, if somebody so feels.
I'll move. A move to approve a temporary event permit for the First Congregational Church of Wolfeboro to host morning worship services at Cape Park from May 2nd to the 31st, 2021, from 8:30 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. and on June 1st through October 31st, 2021, from 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m., contingent upon any COVID-19 guidelines at that time.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve this event. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Senical?
yes,
Dave Bowers?
Yes.
Paul? And Brad Henry
Yes.
votes yes also. Oh, thank you.
Sorry about that, guys.
A little delayed there. Okay, thank you, everybody. Okay, moving on to our agenda. Next item is public input. Do we have anybody out there who would like to speak to us at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to our bulk vote. This evening's bulk vote has two weekly manifests. Weekly manifest for February 5th is for $511,826 and change. And the February 12th, 2021 is $2,198,373 and change. Obviously, we probably have a school payment in that one there. So,
We do.
also we have a property tax refund for a big total of $13.62. An intent to cut timber on New Garden Road, and a raffle permit for the Chamber of Commerce for the ice out contest would be coming up. Anybody like to make a motion on the bulk vote? Items A through D.
I move we approve them.
Motion and second to approve the bulk vote. Any other discussion? Seeing none, a roll call vote. Linda,
Yes,
Dave Senical,
Yes.
Dave Bowers,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
and Brad votes yes also. Okay. We have no board or committee appointments this evening, so we'll move on to new business. First item on the new business is discussion regarding Lakes Region Household Hazardous Product Facility. Is Sarah with us here this evening? Or are you going to present
Mr.
this?
Chairman, I'm not seeing Sarah here this evening. She did request to be placed on the agenda to discuss the February collection and the fact that it's going to be canceled. So that's the gist of what she wanted to get across to the community, but she's not here this evening.
Okay, so more of an informational thing there, as you said, that to advise people at the midwinter cancellation of the med collection. So we put that out there. Assume that'll be on our website also.
Yeah,
to
that's what I was gonna
alert
say.
people. Okay. Next on our agenda is the hawkers and peddlers permits for locations 1, 2, and 3. We have in our packets.
Hot Dog Bob.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm not seeing either one of them here this evening, Mr. Chairman, but it's my understanding that these are fairly consistent with the past year's locations. No real changes other than they're just coming through the permit process. And I see Amy has just lit up if she's got anything to add. Amy?
Okay.
Hey, bail him out. Bail this young man out.
So, Bob, known as Hot Dog Bob, has renewed his applications. We have an ordinance for these spaces and they have until January 31st to renew. So both Hot Dog Bob has renewed and Kurt DeVilder, as DeVilder's Farms has renewed. Spot number 4 has not renewed and is out in the paper for advertisement. When I get applications collected, we have a deadline for those, and then I'll bring them before the board so that you can choose someone for the last spot.
Thank you, Amy. Paul?
Amy, which, for the benefit of the public and for me, what is spot number 4?
The spot number 4 is, it's in front of Kate Park. Lower to the corner down by where it used to be Hallmark, but is now the pet store. And the last 2 years, the Frenches have had that spot with their Full Moon Farm flowers.
Okay, thank you.
Linda?
yeah, I mean, we've had trouble with that spot, finding a good place for it. And I wonder, before we sign somebody else up, whether we shouldn't take a look at it and define exactly where it is. We had it there and then we had it across the street. And one point we tried to move it down by Blacks and it's a hard one. It's kind of on a slope. So I just don't know if the board wants to take a look at it and get a better spot or better definition. At some point, sometimes they put them in the walkway going into Kate Park, which I think is kind of in the way, but I think the board should take a look at the spot and see if we can better define it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So,
Struggled with that one.
So it's still out there, you're asking for people to come in and bid on it, but there's an ask on the table here to better define the spot. Is that kind of what we're doing?
That's correct.
And Linda, was the spot, were we picking up spot 4 and moving it down to the place in front of Blacks a few years ago when a pastry organization wanted to sell pastries? And we're trying to find out the spot 4. Is that kind of what we're trying to do?
Right, and she had this kind of Carter table and it's on a slant. And then we tried to move it across the street, and that didn't work. And then we moved it down, and there was a hydrant down there, but it had to do with the cart that she wanted to use. And I think it would make sense. And I'm willing to go with Amy or whoever else, go out there and take a look and see if we can find a spot that makes sense. I question whether it's an angle there, but we can go look. But people have wanted to move that particular spot because it's a hard one.
Sure.
Right.
If I recall too, we also looked at placing that one down by Dockside in the parking lot down there, but because they were selling a product that was conflicted with the restaurant there, we couldn't put it there. So we had to keep it out of Main Street there. So yeah, I agree. I think we should take a look at that spot and kind of see if we can find a better one or define it a little bit better. But anyway, before us we have.
Is Railroad Avenue down by the train station? Is that off limits?
It's just not where the fourth space has been defined. That's kind of what I'm, saying. We could try to look down there. We think it's a better spot.
Yeah, that's why I was asking. So space 4 really is we're trying to find a home for it, and if down by Railroad Avenue makes sense, why not? Right. Yeah. Okay.
That's where we look at that at our next meeting there, kind of talk about it and see what we can do. So before us, we have 3 of them anyway. We have 2 for Hot Dog Bob and 1 for DeWilder Farms for spots 1, 2, and 3. Would somebody like to make a motion on these?
I thought you just did.
I did, huh?
Yeah,
Okay. I'll make that motion to approve.
I'll second it.
A motion is second to approve spots 1, 2, and 3 as presented to us tonight. Any other discussion? Seeing none, have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Senical?
Yes.
Dave Bowers? Paul?
Yes.
And Brad votes yes also.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, I believe Sarah Silk has joined us.
Okay, we'll jump back to that. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, thank you, Brad. I'm here as representative for the Lakes Region Household Hazardous Product Facility. I just wanted people to know that we will be unable to hold our 3rd Saturday of February medicine collection, which we usually hold at the Episcopal Church due to COVID restrictions. We can't use the building, and we're unable to find another spot that would be able to satisfy our needs. Do have a lot of people that do attend in the winter and find that one handy because they don't have to wait in line for people with paint and 1,000 other things to be offloaded. So my apologies, but we will be open for medicine collection on the 3rd Saturday of June, the 3rd Saturday of August, and in Alton, the 2nd Saturday of September. So I was hoping that people would not go down to the Episcopal Church and expect it to be happening.
Okay. Thank you. And we did mention a little earlier too that we're going to make sure we get this on the website and stuff too, so it's out there for everybody to see anyway.
I have to say that Beverly has been absolutely fabulous. It's been on the website in a matter of moments after I asked her to put it on several weeks ago.
Oh.
And she was able to do some other updates on the hazardous waste site that hadn't been attended to. And I'm very, very pleased with her position and what she's doing.
Beverly
Thank you.
for president.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Okay. Next on our agenda is the Farmers Market License Agreement.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Megan Young. I'm the president of the Wolfeboro Area Farmers Market. I am here this evening on a mission to renew our lease for this year in Clark Park. Unlike some other organizations, we actually were able to hold the farmers market last year, and it turned out with A whole lot of changes that we made due to COVID. It actually turned out to be quite a wonderful event. Over the course of the summer, we had great customer cooperation with all of the COVID, various items that we were trying to make sure that we kept everybody safe with. And it just overall went great, and we're looking forward to another fabulous year.
Okay, thank you. Board members, Linda.
Yeah, in past years, we had a sentence in the lease that read, all Wolfeboro farmers can participate in the Wolfeboro area's farmers market shall be allowed to do so regardless of whether their products is a duplication of somebody else's product. And that is not in this lease. It wasn't in the last lease. Do you have a policy of your group that would allow anybody from Wolfeboro to participate who's a farmer?
The policy that we have and is in the lease is that as long, any Wolfeboro farm, as long as they meet our requirements, like your product has to be from it. Well, obviously, if you're growing it in Wolfeboro, then it's in New Hampshire. And then you have to be able to meet our insurance requirements, which means that, in order to meet our insurance requirements, it's also the insurance requirements that we have from the town. And at that point, then they have absolute preference.
Okay, that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, no, they have preference to come in.
One year, one farm couldn't come in because it duplicated something that somebody else had. And you're saying if they're a Wolfeboro farm, they can come in regardless of what other products somebody else might be selling.
Yes. Yeah, that's not the only problem that we would run into is whether they couldn't meet our insurance requirements or didn't have, if their products weren't local.
Okay, that's fine. My other thing I want to point out to the board, the map, and I want to say thank you for all your regulations, and it was very clear, well written. I just want to point out that what we are agreeing this time is for you to use all of Clark Park for your tents and for the different groups, where in the past it was for far less space. I don't have any problem with it being this large and throughout the whole park, but that is the difference from previous maps. I just wanted to point that out to the board.
Yeah, I think that's great. Obviously, part of it due to the spacing we need for COVID, but hopefully part of it's also due to the fact that it's very popular and a lot of farms want to come to it and participate. So I think that's a good problem to have.
My other question is, Jim, how did we do with parking this year? And Christine may be here too. Did we have any more damage to the trees one year with all the parking on the park that we had damage to the trees? Were we okay this last year?
I'll have to defer to Christine on that one. I think that the market did a better job this year at this past year at controlling the parking from what I observed in the past, but I'll have to defer to Christine on that. Christine?
Yeah, I did not hear of any damage that was done over there from it. So I just, I don't think I really got to look at the plan. I just want to make sure as we keep growing, maybe we could do a walkthrough with Megan just to make sure like how far we're going in for parking, kind of just review it. I don't think we've done that in the past, like at least I haven't been part of it. And it would be good just for me to kind of see where we're parking, to see if there's any need to like put extra gravel down in a spot or make sure when we're mowing, we're careful for something. So I think that would be something good to just go over prior to the season, maybe.
Sounds good to me.
That's fine with me.
Yeah, that sounds good. Any other questions or comments from the board?
And I'll just add, Brad, I do have her insurance certificate. She emailed it to me today. Thank you, Megan.
Very welcome.
Thank you, Amy. Would somebody like to make a motion on this?
I'll make a motion that we sign the lease agreement with the farmers market for the 2021 year, contingent upon them following the COVID-19 policies that are at the time.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the farmer's market. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Senical?
Yes.
Dave Bowers? Paul?
Yes.
And Brad Harron votes yes also. All right. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next on our agenda is the Winter Harbor Management Plan.
Okay, that's Ms. Kathy Barnard here. I'm here as a member of the Wolfeboro Waters Committee. I'm here with Pat Tarpey, the Executive Director of the Lake Winnipesaukee Association, to present to you for adoption the Wolfeboro Bay and Winter Harbor Watershed Management Plan and its recommendations as they relate to Winter Harbor. The town was an active participant in the preparation of this plan, which also includes an implementation plan to address specific problems in Winter Harbor, and also includes some estimated cost. So I'm going to turn this over to Pat Tarpey now, and she's going to tell you a little more about the plan.
Thank you, Kathy. I have a relatively short presentation to make. I know your time is very valuable, so I'm hoping to keep it to 10 minutes, a little over. Jim, do you have the presentation you can share?
I will be putting it up right now, Pat, and just tell me when you're ready for the next slide.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, Pat.
Okay, so this plan was Wolfeboro Bay and Winter Harbor, and I will focus on Winter Harbor, but the Lake Winnipesaukee Association hired FB Environmental Associates as the consultant to work on this plan, and other partners were DK Water Resource Consulting, which you're probably familiar with, is Don Kretschmer in Wolfeboro, and the Horsley Witten Group. Next slide. So this is trying to orient you a bit. Winter Harbor's watershed is at the southern end here. Wolfeboro Bay is about 6 times the size of Winter Harbor, but we included Winter Harbor because we wanted to get all of the water bodies in Tufton Borough covered, as well as Wolfeboro had expressed interest in Winter Harbor previously. Next slide. So Winter Harbor and Wolfeboro Bay, they're part of Lake Winnipesaukee, as you're probably all aware. Lake Winnipesaukee is considered or classified as an oligotrophic lake, which means it has high water quality. Lakes all go through this natural aging process, and an oligotrophic lake is considered one with low plant productivity. So you don't have a lot of algal blooms, you don't have a lot of native plants. And even though Winnipesaukee is about 12,000 years old, formed in the glacial period, it is a young lake. Next slide. So even though it's classified as oligotrophic and high quality, it's actually on the New Hampshire list of impaired waters for primary contact recreation due to cyanobacteria. There have been several blooms of cyanobacteria throughout the lake. And as you're probably all aware, in 2018, Winter Harbor had a bloom of gliotrichia, which was the first one that area of the lake had experienced. Next slide. So a part of the management planning process is to do several different types of analyses. And one is looking at the water quality data that we have. On the right side of this slide here is Winter Harbor, and that shows all the sampling sites in that area. Most of them are near shore sampling site, and a lot of that work has been done by Warren Muir in the southern end of Winter Harbor, and up in the upper section of Winter Harbor, Steve Wingate in Tuftonboro does that sampling. So there are only 2 deep water sites, considered deep water sites, and those are in the center areas. You see one in the lower Winter Harbor and one in the upper Winter Harbor near the Libby Museum. Next. So when we do our analyses and we use the water quality data we have to input into different nutrient models and lake load response models. So we use the data from the deep sites. And the 2 deep sites in Winter Harbor and for Wolfeboro Bay, they both show very good water quality, or excellent as shown here, both for in-lake phosphorus levels and chlorophyll A levels. So an oligotrophic water body, the state has set nutrient criteria saying you have to be below 8 parts per billion in phosphorus and 3.3 parts per billion in chlorophyll A to have that oligotrophic status. And in addition, they want you to keep a 10% buffer. So that's what the bottom dotted line there is. So they really want you to stay below 7.2 parts per billion for phosphorus and 3 parts per billion for chlorophyll A. And Winter Harbor does fall under those ranges for both their deep sites. Next slide. So the water quality analysis showed that even though we have very good water quality in Winter Harbor, at the deep spots, we are seeing these cyanobacteria blooms, not just in Winter Harbor, but throughout Winnipesaukee. So there are a lot of different factors that go into this. We're not dealing with a nice round bathtub of water. These are complex basins, and there's a lot of other things at play. So we know from the water quality data of the near shore sites that those exhibit poor water quality. And these are inputs coming into Winter Harbor, and that we really have to look at what's going on holistically, more than just what the phosphorus data is telling us. Next slide. So the next part of the watershed management planning process is doing a watershed analysis, which includes a watershed survey. So we want to identify what are the sources of pollution coming into the lake. And in general, these are all what's called non-point sources of pollution. You can't point to one specific site or place and say that's the culprit. It's just everything cumulatively adds up. And so various sources are septic systems, fertilizer use, agriculture, even waterfowl, and the developed land. So those are your main things that we are looking at. Next. So the watershed survey is an on-the-ground survey. FB Environmental and LWA and some volunteers went out and actually surveyed the watershed. And this is limited mostly, I'd say 99%, to public areas, because we can't go on private property. So we can't really look at those sites. But we're looking for areas that, as this says, contribute disproportionate amounts of pollutants into the lake. And three of these pictures here have sand related or erosion sites. So gravel roads can be a big source of inputs to the lake. The beaches, or that's a boat launch, one of those in Melvin River. And the far left is Port Wedland. So some erosion issues happening down there. And one reason for looking at gravel roads especially, or beaches, is phosphorus is not naturally mobile in the environment. It's sticky and it sticks to the surface of soil particles. So any sites of erosion are going to be high contributors to nutrient inputs to the lake. And next slide. So in our survey, we identified 107 sites in total, but 39 sites in Winter Harbor, and that map there kind of shows you. Most of these sites are probably road related, again, because the roads, they're great transportation vehicles for our cars, but they're great transportation vehicles for stormwater runoff. So your stormwater runoff is going to go down to a catch basin or storm drain and empty directly into the lake. And it's impervious, so everything that hits it gets washed off. So a lot of these might deal with undersized culverts. They might deal with roadside drainage ditches. And we can go next. Okay. Another thing we look at are septic systems. So we look at the septic systems within 250 feet of the water body that we're analyzing. And we look at town records pretty much. And we're looking at those systems that might be over 25 years in age, because that's considered the average lifespan. So for Winter Harbor, there were 265 houses within 250 feet of the lake, and 177 of them were built before 1994. So that doesn't, they may have had their septic systems replaced. We don't know. That's one of the limitations to, I think, even town records and state records. But that gives you an idea that 67% of those homes could have old septic systems. So that's just basically the purpose of the septic system inventory. Next slide. So we kind of take a lot of this information and we look at the land use in the watershed, and we can estimate the nutrient loads coming from the various sources. And this breakdown here just shows that how much is coming from the atmosphere in rainfall, which we have no control over. How much is coming internal loading? That means the process is happening within the lake itself, and you can have phosphorus released from your bottom sediments in the lake. Waterfowl, septic systems, and then the watershed load, which is everything coming off the land. So you can see for Winter Harbor, the majority, as in Wolfeboro Bay, comes from the watershed load. And for Winter Harbor, then the next highest areas from the atmosphere, followed by septic systems. Next slide. So if we take that watershed load and we dig a little deeper and see the breakdown from just what's coming off the land, for Winter Harbor, 78% of the watershed is forested, which is a good thing because forests do a great job of taking in the nutrients and absorbing them and using them, and slowing down stormwater runoff. So you can see 78% of the watershed is forested, and it's only contributing 20% of the nutrient load to Winter Harbor. Whereas only 17% of Winter Harbor's watershed is developed, but that's contributing 75% of the load to Winter Harbor. And that's the key takeaway here, is that it's what we do on the land that really contributes the loading to our lakes. And that's what we have to focus on, trying to minimize that. Next slide. So this is just taking what I just showed you. What is the loading into Winter Harbor, and what is Winter Harbor's response or its ability to assimilate that load. So on the left, you can see that the load from in the watershed, well, it looks really tiny compared to Wolfeboro Bay, which is this huge watershed. But currently, 2019, when this part of the study was done, there's about 300 kilograms of phosphorus that goes into Winter Harbor. And on the right, it shows how Winter Harbor assimilates that. So current water quality or in-lake phosphorus levels for Winter Harbor are around 5 parts per billion. The pre-development line there means if the watershed were 100% forested before European settlement came here, that the natural background in lake level in Winter Harbor is estimated to be around 2 parts per billion, and we're currently at 5. And then if you built out the watershed to its capacity based on current zoning, the future build out is estimated at 2072, the year 2072, and you would have an in-lake level of phosphorus at around 12 parts per billion. So we're already seeing some issues and problems currently at 5 parts per billion, and likely if it ever got up to 12, it would be more than 100 times worse, obviously, but it would be far worse than what you're currently seeing. So the key is we know we want development, but to do it in a way that minimizes the additional loading to Winter Harbor. Next slide. So now I'm just going to come down to the action plan or recommendations in the plan. They fall under these 5 categories. I think you were given ahead of time just the BMP matrix, which refers to number 2 on this action plan. But overall, there are 75 recommendations in the plan under these categories of what could be done. Next slide. So and the goal from the committee was they wanted to try and reduce the nutrient loading to Winter Harbor by 5% each year. So in order to do that, there's a lot of strategies and practices that have to be put in place. We know, as I showed you the water quality data, we don't have a complete understanding of what's going on in Winter Harbor. So there are recommendations to expand and enhance the monitoring program that is going on. Next slide. Which is also what this one, expand it into the shoulder season, so spring and fall when the lake turns over, to try and capture what's happening in the lake then. That's when we tend to see cyanobacteria or algal blooms in other parts of the lake when the lake turns over, because everything in the bottom layer, bottom waters, comes up to the surface, and then it's prime conditions to have a bloom. And then we're now seeing research shows there's a lot of stuff that happens in winter under ice conditions. And there aren't many groups. In fact, in the state, I think there's only 2 groups that might do some winter sampling, and one's on Mirror Lake. But you can have cyanobacteria blooms and algal blooms in the winter under the ice. And so it would be good to kind of get a better understanding of what's actually happening in the lake all year round. Next slide. So there's a lot of things that can be done by individual property owners. I didn't mention in this, but it's part of this management plan. A shoreline survey was done as well, really by boat, just going along and assessing buffers, setbacks to the lake, erosion, steep slopes. Winter Harbor, a section of it has quite a bit of steep slopes, as I'm sure you're aware. So these are areas that can create erosion, and there are steps property owners can do to improve their own properties and minimize what's coming into the lake. And actually, Lake Winnipesaukee Association with New Hampshire Lakes will be promoting a lot of this program and working with property owners this coming summer. So it's an area we hope to reach out and educate people on. And next slide. And another section of the action plan. So there are many things that can be done at the municipal level. Under planning, regulations, ordinances. Part of the management plan did a municipal review of what's currently in place. And there is a section where they make recommendations on things that might be improved to minimize the stormwater runoff and the nutrient load to the lake. And I think the next one's my last slide, just wrap up. So that was just the end of it. And I know that's kind of a lot to cover in a very short time. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me.
Thank you, Pat.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Board members, any questions for Pat or Kathy? Paul.
And not for an immediate answer, because it would be kind of putting you on the spot, Kathy and Pat, but when you look at these data and you look at these contributing dots in the Winter Harbor area, will we be seeing, will you guys be coming forward saying, here are some specific things we need to do from either a zoning setback, recommendations as to how drainage works? Will any of that result in kind of a specific set of curative recommendations?
So there are actually some in the plan now, like section 5 of the plan are all the recommendations. There are some things listed for best management practices for road maintenance, for example. There was a municipal review done, and I'd have to go back and look at it, Paul, to see what specific recommendations it has for improvement for, say, Wolfeboro, looking at that. But each one of those dots has recommendations associated with it of what needs to be fixed with estimated costs. And usually the costs are, to be honest, quite low, and they don't include labor costs, and I just think they tend to be underestimated.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find and I'll read the plan, and thank you for doing it. I'm trying to find here's a cause, here's a do, and so we can see, we can start knocking them down. That would be great. Okay, thanks, Pat. Thank you, Kathy.
Okay. Yep.
Thanks, Paul. I got Dave Senical first, and I got you, Linda, afterwards. Okay, Dave?
Yeah, in the plan, when you talked about septic systems and stuff, I'm assuming you took into some consideration that there are still a lot of, quote, summer cottages on the lake. That certainly the majority of those probably don't have any septic systems that could meet any requirements in today's world, but they are used seasonally. So I'm assuming that some of your information is based, taking that out of the equation as far as septic systems, because there are still some pieces. I know, having fished Winter Harbor for a long time, that there's still a lot of summer homes there.
We factor in whether it's year-round or seasonal use.
Okay. Yep.
So that does get factored.
Thank you.
Yep.
Linda?
Yeah, I was pleased to see that we got Appendix B BMP matrix, and there's some specific things that Wolfeboro can do on that, and that does have the cost. And I think that we should meet with Dave Ford. We've got Wolfeboro Waters, and we should go down that list, some of which we have taken care of, and start pinpointing where we want to go from here. I found that very helpful. It gives the price tag that I think Paul was looking at before. And it seems like it would make sense for us to use that piece of it right now. And Wolfeboro Waters is going to try to do some education, and obviously we will partner with the Winnipesaukee Association and get any of that information out onto our website. But this is great to have and helps us take a look at that area. So Pat, thank you to the Winnipesaukee Association for bringing this forward for us to approve.
Welcome.
Right, well, it definitely is the next step. We now have the list. It's specific. And as Linda said, some of the projects are quite small. Some of them are much larger and are going to cost a lot more money. But you know, I think we really need to get going on implementing and taking care of some of these projects, and you know, lay them out, figure out which ones we can do and when we can do them. So I certainly endorse that next step. We would like you to adopt this plan. That was why we brought it forth to the Board of Selectmen for your adoption. So I hope you'll consider doing that.
I'll make a motion to adopt the Moltenboro Bay Winter Harbor Watershed Management Plan presented to us tonight.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the Moltenboro Bay and Winter Harbor Watershed Management Plan presented to us tonight. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Paul?
since we're going to adopt this plan, or pro forma will adopt the plan, would it make sense next year at this time that the same team come back and tell us what progress they've made against the plan recommendations?
Yes, I'd be happy to come back next year.
That'd be great. So we take that piece of paper in the back and just kind of say, here's the things we said we were going to do. Here's what we did. That'd be awesome.
Yes.
And I think we should send it to Wolfeboro Waters, which is looking at water quality, and that they should keep an eye on it and work with Public Works, and then bring that back to us. But I think that committee should keep an eye on this.
I agree. Whatever the right model is, as long as there's, you know, there's this tendency to want to close on what we said we were going to do versus what we actually did. That'd be good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, and I was going to make a comment too, that what's another nice thing about this is kind of giving us a baseline. So as we start to do some of these projects, the BMPs and stuff like that, we'll be able to see if it has a positive effect and how much of a positive effect it has on our quality of our water in Winter Harbor. So I think it's great. So, okay, any other?
I've got one other. Yeah, we have two big projects. One, we're doing Cary Beach, and two, we've done Partridge, and we've done some of it, and we've done some stuff on Forest Road. So I would also like to take this matrix and look at those things we've already done, and look from that point where we have to move on. So I was pleased that we had targeted some of the areas.
Yep, absolutely. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Senecal?
Yes.
Dave Bowers? Paul?
Yes.
And Brad Hammer votes yes also.
Okay.
Right, thank you very much, Pat and Kathy.
Yeah, thank you. Can I just take one more minute, because the Winter Harbor management plan is just part of our issue in Wolfeboro, and so I'm part of one of the subcommittees for Wolfeboro Waters mitigation and prevention subcommittee, and we've started to work with Pat on the process that we need to follow to develop a plan for Wolfeboro Bay. And we think it's important to look at all of our watershed. And so that's why we've started this process. Thank goodness for Pat Tarpey. And we've really, it's been very good working with her. So So you'll be hearing from us again. I hope that wasn't premature, Linda, but
No, sounds good.
Yeah.
but anyway, thank you very much for your time.
Yep.
And
Thank you. All right, moving on our agenda. Next is a capital projects update in Public Works.
Yeah, it's a good segue. The State Ford Public Works Director, and I think Pat and Kathy did a great job. Hopefully you got the spreadsheet and it's been narrowed down. I'll start with project on Cary Beach parking lot, which is directly related to this watershed management study. We actually identified a sub area within the bigger area and identified this project. We went out to bid. Ambrose was the low bid contractor. We started work in the fall and got substantially completed before the winter. They still got some landscaping to do, and we've got a lot of erosion control fencing up there now. So we're right kind of in the middle of construction. We did get the base paving down, but it looks like everything's looking pretty good. And our hope is that we will be ready for opening around beginning of June. The money left in the budget will be used for the construction of the gatehouse, which we're working with Christine Parks and Rec. So we'll have someone there to be a gatekeeper, but more importantly, there'll also be storage in the back, which will be for our equipment we'll need for the handicap accessible ramp, which is gone in already. And it's I was a little nervous when you go out there. It looks like it's a little tight. We did reduce it with the paving and all the drainage, because this is a major project in which, following up on what Pat just talked about, we will be taking all the stormwater and it's going to be going into the ground, into a very interesting treatment system and groundwater discharge system. So this is a great project, be a demonstration project. So again, everything should be completed, and it looks like we'll be right there on budget. Under the next project, the town road upgrades, and I'll just kind of go on because we talked about the Partridge Road BMPs, and that was also funded by town road, and that is also in the watershed. And again, working with town crews, we did a lot of work in terms of getting stormwater back in the ground. We started seeing some results this year. It's not a perfect system because it's piecemealing. We're doing a little bit at a time. And then appropriation comes this year with the 2021 money. I'm going to look at doing the rest of the neighborhood, Maplewood Drive, Jiminy, all the way up to Berrywood. All those roads are in dire need of being upgraded. And at the same time, we're going to use the same concept of infiltration trenches and try to mitigate runoff and get the water back in the ground. So that's going good. The rest of town road projects went well this year. We did rebuilding of Bryant Road and Allen Road. Both those roads are in really poor shape, poor base. We added gravel and a lot of drainage and got the base paving done. We also finished off North Wolfeboro Road and Stoddard Hills and Martin Hill. They were base paved in previous years, and we did the overlays. And then Pine Street and a section of Lane Street, we finished off those with the finished paving. And last year, we also did the engineering for Stoneham Road. And that went out to bid. And so now we have bid numbers and we're ready to issue that contract so we can keep moving. But on Stoneham Road, again, the transition from the crews doing not such a big project, maybe just a small project. So coming up this year, that big project will be bid out. It'll be out, and we'll be doing just a smaller projects on East Clark Road and Goodrich Road. The next big project was the recreational dock repairs. As you recall, we had authorized $170,000, but we also had $130,000 from a potential federal grant, which we decided was not in the town's best interest to take. But we did put the project out to bid. At the same time, working with the committees here, we also put out to bid all of the needs of the dock repairs and the extension. The bids came in. We only had 2 bids, and the qualified bid was a company called Chesterfield. Really interesting contractor from out of state, but we had some really good discussions and decided that this was a good partner. They were willing to work with a local contractor, so we kept some of the work local. And what we decided to do is to get in there, at least do 1 dock for the money we had, and we're all teed up and all their prices are guaranteed, even with the inflation with materials so that we can go forward with the completion of the recreational dock repairs if we get our warrant article for $850,000 approved. And we also have the money and the bid out for the dock extensions. So if that warrant article gets approved, all that projects would then be lined up for work next fall and hopefully be all completed by the spring of 2022. I'm going to take a break. If anyone has any questions on those 3 projects.
I have a question, if I could, Brad.
Sure, go ahead, Paul.
So Dave, again, not told you to a number. When we did the Cary Beach, or you did the Cary Beach project, you had an estimate of how much phosphorus we might be able to mine out of this project. Do you remember what that number was?
It was a pretty significant number, but you got to be careful talking about, if we talk about 3 pounds of phosphorus per year, which is quite a bit, but how does that relate to parts per billion in the lake? I can't give you that direct correlation, but it was significant.
Specifically not required. What I'm asking for, and again, because we're going to get back together, or you guys get back together next year, it'd be great to see, you know, a set of data that says here's what it was before and here's what it was after, and hopefully we'll see that your work out there has resulted in some type of reduction in phosphorus load. Whether that happens or not, be good to look at it.
The one thing we've got to understand, that especially myself as an engineer, what we can do theoretically and what Pat has done and all these watershed management plans there's a theoretical model. So it's what I think you're exactly right though. We need to show what we were before and what we were after and what the payback is for that 450,000. So I agree with you. I just want to make sure people get understand getting caught up with exact numbers. We are making a great improvement. And I want to be careful not to overstate the milligrams per liter, parts per billion, because that science behind it is very theoretical. I can tell you, if we get the water into the ground, we stop the erosion, we are going to definitely mitigate, because the lake, like Pat said, it's only 12,000 years old. It has a life of its own. We're only here for a short period. We're trying to mitigate the damage we've done already. And I think one of the things she's talked about with the 17% that's developed, that's where all the problems are. And that's where we're working. The town did on the town roads along Forest Road. We got a big project there. So I think you're right. We should try to, again, try to figure out how we can show the example, the money invested in return on that. It's great. Well, we'll definitely commit to that.
Again, just, I agree. We shouldn't be held to an exact number because you can't. I mean, it doesn't work like that. But we're all on the same focus, which is, if we can mitigate, reduce the amount of phosphorus load we're putting into the lake, and some of the things we're working on are aimed at doing that, and we can demonstrate progress, that's good news. That's a good news thing to talk about. Thank you, Dave.
The next project I have is water quality improvements, and again, I apologize on this. I don't think my numbers are 100% accurate, because this was a 2-year appropriation. I believe a purchase order was issued after the numbers I used to put this report together. So I had spent $16,000, a little over that, for equipment and lab expenses. But I do believe there was a contract issued to CEI for some work that I wasn't involved with. So this one, I kind of apologize. Matt was running it before. I'm not sure who's running this now, but Jim, do you have any information on that at all? So okay.
I don't at this time, Dave.
All right, so I will try to get back to you. And Linda?
Yeah, I had Casey look at it, and it's just about all spent. I think there's about $1,800 left. And she did a printout for me on that, which we should get to you.
Okay, I don't know what the work, and I saw it, a purchase order was issued. I'm not sure what that was for, so I'm assuming it's for one of the water quality projects that Matt was working on. And it just finally get in the system, but we'll follow up on that, find out what's going on with that one. Under the Public Works Vehicle Equipment cap, we last year took the money, $175,000, and we purchased a new sidewalk plow that was done early last year, and a 1-ton truck, and we kind of drew that balance down. So we're kind of on low numbers now. We are out to bid with equipment. So again, assuming we get our positive votes, town meeting, we'll be looking at purchasing a couple of vehicles next year. Building maintenance cap reserve fund. Again, the money that went in the funds building up this past year, we did a lot of maintenance that was much needed at Clock Complex. We painted some buildings, trim at the town hall, highway garage doors were replaced, roofs, a dockside, fire substation, and a section of the public safety building. Also a section of the flat roof at the rink, which is very important because that was leaking on a boiler, which we wouldn't be able to fix unless we had that roof fixed. And we were able to get a contractor and they helped us out. And at the same time, we did some mold removal in the old rink locker room. So to try to keep the building going, it's those old buildings. So this fund has been very valuable. It's coming very handy. And again, we continue next year with needed projects. It's again something that was much needed and going to good use. The water department backhoe that was put up to bid early, and we received that. And that one probably should be off the list now. It came in a little bit under budget. And it's been used now, and it's cleaning out all the hydrants after all the snowstorms. You can see it down the road. The electric generation study, that project started late in the year. We encumbered $25,000 with Bergeron Technical Services. We've had a virtual meeting, and they started working on that. So we should be seeing a draft report soon, and hopefully at some point we'll be talking to the selectmen about what they found and what the next steps would be with that project. Going on to 2019 projects, and the big one, and this is really kind of a big success story. We haven't talked about it much, but the Pleasant Valley Road Bridge, that project, which was authorized for $1.24 million, was completed, and and it looks beautiful. I really, if anyone hasn't taken a look at it, I think they did a great job. It came in a little bit under budget. I just got notified from the state. It looks like we'll be getting reimbursement of $950,000 on over $1.2 million of expenses. So that's almost 80% share of all costs. We have a few dollars to clean up and actually get the documentation in so we get the money back to us. But again, a great job and very happy with that project. The effluent disposal study project, we have wrapping up that one. All these studies and the project went out to bid. We were sweating there for a little bit, but the bids came in really nice, so we're in pretty good shape now. We've got one more permit issue we've got to work out and some land acquisition. But right now, everything's checked out with the low bidder, which was the Weaver Brothers out of Bow, New Hampshire. Usually a contractor does a lot of DOT work, but DOT work was slow, so we had an unusual number of bidders, and that good competition gave us a good number. So that's really, really good news for us. And our hope is that we'll get that contract signed early in the spring and have that job completed by the end of this year, again, assuming we get our authorization at town meeting. And the last project I have here is the capital reserve fund at the wastewater treatment plant. And last year, we actually didn't deposit any money into that account. But this year we will. But I am here. I want to speak to that because we were working with Woodard & Curran on design build upgrades, and we have completed some more electrical upgrades and some pumping upgrades and some other issues. We've also went out for an RFQ to select an engineer to help us with a facility master plan. That process started back in the late fall, and in the typical request for qualifications, and then we monitored down to 3 or 4 for interviews, and we selected a firm out of Manchester, HDR Engineering, a new firm specializing in the wastewater facilities. So under the capital reserve fund, one of the things we'd like to be able to do is to make sure we make the selectmen aware ahead of time before spending the money. So we do have a contract for this first phase of the facility planning. And let me explain that too. We just coming off an 8-year, basically emergency stopgap plan. 8 years ago, I came to the board and said, hey, I have $1 million. Let's do it over 8 years, $125,000 a year. And we have put together a spreadsheet of what we thought were the critical projects. That has served us well and has allowed us to continue to keep the facility moving. And as you know, in 2016, we were the New Hampshire Plan of the Year. So the facility still is getting old. And the problems we had back in the early 2000s are still there with regards to the age of the facility. So we really have to make a decision. And instead of doing piecemeal, let's pause. Let's look at our options. We can continue to piecemeal upgrades and keep this facility going, and we can do it through the funding of the cap reserve fund, although it might have to go up, or holding off maybe on any upgrades for a while and then bonding and doing a major project and then doing it all at once. My feeling is, being Yankee and trying to keep the cost down to keep us from bonding, we've been trying to use the cap reserve fund with the concept of maybe as the debt service falls off on the RAB project, we would use some of that money to help fund the cap reserve fund. But I think the better thing is to pause and figure out what the big picture is, what the critical issues are, and what our options are. So the facility plan will give us a 3-year crisis management plan, which is we're on now, a kind of a 10-year shot and a 30-year shot. And my hope is that by September of next year, we're also, this work is facility planning. Then we have the asset management plan, and there might be some confusion. That's a separate warrant article, in which we're working for $30,000, and that's going to be done by Woodward & Curran. They're our contract operator. We've already started working with them on this, and hopefully this is going to get all the equipment over $1,000. Where is it on its life cycle? The cost to repair or upgrade. That in combination with the bigger facility planning will allow us to have the master plan, and then hopefully be able to discuss with the selectmen and the CIP committee in the fall what direction we want to take with this facility. So I said a lot there, so I don't know if anyone has any questions or if there's any discussion on that.
Board members, any questions for Dave? Yeah, Linda.
And I sent Dave a whole bunch of questions earlier, and I want to thank him for answering them. I was having a hard time getting that we were going to do an asset management plan and also a facility management plan, and the money was coming out of 2 different pockets to make that happen. So I want to thank you, Dave, for doing that.
With this, so I think we do look for a vote, right, Jim? I think we need to have an authorization from the selectmen to go forward with the study and appropriation of that money. So, because it is going to come out of the cap reserve fund.
Yeah, Dave. So that Dave did come forward with that contract. I do believe a couple of selectmen did have some questions, and as a result, that's being tabled until the next board meeting.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, that's what I have for the capital projects, and anything else I'd be more happy to answer or discuss.
Yeah, Dave, Senecal.
Yeah, I'm glad to see the report's getting shorter. We used to get a couple of pages of this, and now we're down to about a half a page.
Well, again, next one will be, we'll add 10 more projects, so the next one will be 2 pages. Yeah. Once we call the new projects, assuming we get positive votes in March, it'll be much lengthier.
It's nice to see it's getting shorter right now, anyway. Yeah. Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Linda.
Yeah, also, Dave Ford gave us a February 11th, 2020 memo on the Department of Public Works status. I thought this was an outstanding document, and I think it's something that we should make sure when our 2 new selectmen come on board, that they get a copy of this. And to me, this is part of what should be part of a selectman's manual. And again, Dave, thank you. It makes it clear where we are and where you're heading in the Public Works Department. And I think that's important for us to have documents like this. So I would say put it in the packet for new selectmen.
And I'm also going to do it for the Water Sewer Department. That was just for the Public Works. So we got another whole list coming for that. So I'll get that also. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Very, very nice report, as usual. Okay. Moving on, we have a discussion on our finance monthly expenditure report. Is Casey with us?
Yes. Yes, I am, Brad. Thank you. So I did not submit anything due to some timing issues. I was unexpectedly out of the office last week. Then on Monday, when I was putting together the package, being that it's a proposed budget not approved by the voters, I wasn't sure which warrant articles to put in there, whether it be the ones the the budget committee voted for, or whether it was the Board of Selectmen's budget. So I guess, and I did discuss this with the town manager yesterday, I do believe that the January and February report are kind of misleading because they're proposed budgets and you really don't know what the budget is until after the voters vote in March. So I guess I'm proposing that the January and February financial review doesn't happen until March. And at that point, you'll have 2 months under your belt and you'll know what the actual budget and warrant articles are. I did take a look. There's nothing outstanding. We still have some year-end entries to book, you know, getting ready for the audit, closing out 20, which affects the encumbrances that are rolled forward into 21. So I apologize for not putting something in the package for you, but I guess I was a little bit confused on what actually should be the actual budget for 21 where it hasn't been approved. So that's where I stand today.
Okay. I think that makes sense myself. So any other comments from the board? Linda?
Yeah, I found you looking at January and February, it didn't really tell us very much. And so I would have no problem seeing the two together. The other question I have, when Dave Ford gave his report on the Pleasant Valley Bridge, there was $200 and some odd thousand left. Are we going to have to vote to give that back to the taxpayers? How do we deal with that? It's a 2019 project.
My understanding would be, and I just saw that reconciliation late this afternoon, is he said he still had some more things to spend. He didn't really quantify that, but if you do not spend it, then it just does not get used and reverts back to the undesignated fund balance. Also, he's
And
only
we
going to
don't, as a board, need to. We as a board don't need to do anything. It just happened in the process.
Correct. Yes. He did allude that there are a few more expenses, and then I believe that the state will only give you 80% of what you've spent, not exactly the number that is quoted. The 80% of what was quoted was if all dollars were spent. So his submittal will be 80% of what's been actually spent. So, but yes, no motion is necessary. It would definitely just wash out at the end of this year when the project is complete.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Casey.
Thank you for your time.
Mr. Chairman, I just would like to say thank you for allowing the flexibility for this. There's a lot of things going on in town hall, as you're well aware, and this just makes a better utilization of Casey's time in not producing that report in this time frame, getting the warrant articles finalized and the state items into DRA and whatnot. So it seems to make a lot of sense, and thank you for endorsing our plan.
Thank you.
Okay.
Brad?
Next on our agenda. Yes. Linda?
I thought we were going to try to get Christine Collins in quickly to do the increase in the Pop Whale and spectators. I got an email from that she can go, and while we keep on going here.
Yeah, no, sounds good. I hadn't seen the email yet, but let's do that. Go ahead, Christine. You're on.
Thank you. Thank you. So the Pop Whale and Ice and Art Center had a request for a tournament for this upcoming weekend. We went, I did a walkthrough with Paul and Linda and the health code officer, kind of just get all our ducks in the row and figure out what would work with having COVID happening. So we went through, did a walkthrough of the facility, and what we noted when we walked through the facility is we had a request for more spots for spectators. So we did a walk through the facility and we were able to come up with 10 more spots for spectators. The tournament has since not decided to happen. However, the spectator spots we did find, we feel that we can go forth and using for the rest of the hockey season safely. They were spots that we kind of left open a little bit when we first made the plans. But we felt after revisiting, walking through, we can safely add those 10 spots. So we're going to change in our COVID policy 27 spectators, and that's still one person, one spectator or guardian per player, but up to a total of 37. So that will make a difference for hockey games and such when we have more players than allowed to have for spectators. So it should be able to make everyone at least have one at a game. And I think that's it. Yep. Anything else, Linda? I think I covered.
No. I'll make a motion that we change the Pop Whalen, I think it's COVID-19 protocols to increase the spectators from 27 to 37.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to increase the spectator for hockey at the Back Bay, at the hockey arena there from 27 to 37. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll have a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Senical?
Yes.
Dave Bowers?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
And Brad votes yes also. All right, Christine.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I see also in that email that I just found and opened up, request for the Board of Selectmen to authorize the town manager to sign milfoil contracts. We want to do that while I'll get that in front of me right now, Mr. Pinio, or
Yeah,
want to do that later on?
We can do it right now, and I would make a motion to have the town manager sign the contract to Solitude, which is for the chemical treatment, and to Aqualogic, which is for the dash hand pulling for the 2021 season.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, to approve the town manager to sign the milfoil contracts. Any other discussion? Seeing none, a roll call vote. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Senical?
Yes.
Dave Bowers? Paul?
Yes.
And Brad votes yes also. All right, thank you. Mr. Paul, I believe you'd be up next with our Atlantic Broadband Survey.
Jim, would you load it up for us? Mr. Pinio. Mr. Pinio. There he is.
There it is.
Okay. I'll try to get through this quickly. We've now completed the Atlantic Broadband Survey. Can you put it into, there you go, Jim. Thank you for that. Let's go to the next chart. Okay. So before I get into the survey itself, I just want to do a recap for the Board of Selectmen and for the members of the public, because there's a lot of information that this cable franchise team that we've been working with over the past year has put together. All of these data are available on the town website under the Cable Franchise Committee. At least they will be as of tomorrow morning. So in the town of Wolfeboro, there's 170 miles of cable plant. That's that black wire stuff that's hanging on the poles. There's more than 40 miles of fiber provided by Atlantic Broadband. Atlantic Broadband has provided us, and this will we'll scan this. Atlantic Broadband has provided us a route map of every street in the town of Wolfeboro. There are currently 3,656 cable subscribers as of the 1st of January 2020. That came in from Atlantic Broadband. Thanks to our tax collector, we've counted 3,982 homes. If you do some simple math, that says that 92% of the town homes have access to up to a gigabit speed. That doesn't necessarily mean that they've purchased it, but they have access to up to a gigabit speed. And if you look at the town maps, and I haven't really gone too crazy about this, we're probably 95 to 97% of our town's homes are passed by a cable provider that has the ability to provide gigabit speed. So we, unlike other communities, benefit from the fact that we have a lot of penetration of cable assets in our town. That's the good news. Warren Sands Road, which was a construction project, is still awaiting Consolidated Communications to move some wires on their poles. We have been, through the Municipal Electric Department and Atlantic Broadband, has been applying respectful pressure to those folks. The same takes place over on Browns Ridge Road. The New Hampshire Electric Cooperative has completed their work. Consolidated has been paid, and we are anxiously awaiting the Consolidated to do their work over there. So the good news is, in this town of Wolfeboro, unlike other towns in the county, we have a high penetration of cable. We also have a high penetration of telephone, and these data will also are also going to be put up on the website. We went to Consolidated about a year ago, and we asked them to tell us for every street address whether they can provide 25 megabits download and 3 megabits upload. 94% of our town is not served from that speed from a Consolidated point of view. In other words, their service that they provide to us is not capable of that 25.3 download speed. Now that's a bad news situation, but it's data. And and for my successor and whoever you bring aboard in this team, there's a lot of grant money that's going to come along to Consolidated and others to build out more fiber assets in the town. And we have, thanks to the hard work of Jim and Matt Sullivan and this cable franchise team, we get a lot of data about what our vendors are providing. Next chart, Jim. Thank you. The Atlantic Broadband contract is up for renewal this year. Mr. Pinio is in receipt of their proposed new contract. It came in a couple of weeks ago. We put together a cable franchise team back in early 2020. These are people that you've heard about, but you don't see in the usual and standard teams. Good people, smart. The CARES program work that we put together kind of got in the way, but we were able to secure some money from the state. I will tell you that Atlantic Broadband was the first company in the state of New Hampshire to turn up CARES services. They did a great job, and I give them a lot of credit for that. Back in September, we sent them a request for information. That request for information is out on the town website. Back in December 1st, we sent out a survey. We sent it out on the electric bills, and we sent it out also at an online, and I want to give a tip of the hat to Beverly, our IT associate, for pulling this together. The survey came back. We had over 1,000 responses, and we had well over 100 pages of verbatim comments, and they've all been compiled and put together by our IT associate, Beverly Woods. Those verbatim comments are out on the town website. They'll be up there tomorrow morning. The survey summary was reviewed by the cable team. We also reviewed it with Atlantic Broadband. Jim and I had a call with Atlantic Broadband. We basically showed them the raw data. We did not show them the verbatim comments. We told them we would have this meeting tonight, and then tomorrow we would let them know how they could access the verbatims as well. Next page, Jim. So more than 1,100 people, about 30% of the ABB base installed. The key observations on the survey, no surprise, but that's the bad news. Call center lead times, it's really hard to get in touch with these folks. They don't keep us, customers don't believe they keep us posted on outage statuses. And you can read the list: bill accuracy, repair services, and then the important one to a lot of people is it just doesn't feel like they're getting value for the buck that they invest. The bad news about that is we did a similar survey 10 years ago, and those are the same results. And we've told Atlantic Broadband that we have the survey data from 10 years ago. We have these survey data, and you know, their challenge, our challenge to them is it's not new news, and they need to improve their situation with their customers. Next chart, Jim. I'm not going to ask you to squint. This is the obligatory squint chart. But this is it was a simple survey. We asked for folks to give us more texture following some of these questions. You know, one of the questions was, do you feel Atlantic Broadband provides you with easy access to customer support? Out of 1,030 responses, more than 50%, almost 60% said no, they don't. We asked if do they provide timely information on outages. You know, we've had some outages, and more than 60% of the respondents and the verbatims said no, they don't. There's a lot of issues in here about multiple visits for repair. I don't know whether some of them are, you know, customer-owned initiatives, whether they're just honest-to-God repair problems. But that's good, fertile stuff that Atlantic Broadband can look at. This was done in a partnership with them to help them get better. I just want to make sure we underscore that. We did ask at the end of the survey, would you recommend Atlantic Broadband to a friend? 63% of the people said no, not at this time would they recommend Atlantic Broadband to a friend. So the good news is they're highly penetrated. The better news is they don't have a lot of competitors. The not so good news is they got some things that they got to work on. And when Jim and I had a chat with them a few weeks ago, I said, you know, there's two ways to look at this. You can look at this as a whole bunch of free, great customer insights that you can go improve your business with, or you can, you know, you can find reasons to say it's bad and defend and debate the data and all that kind of stuff that some companies tend to do. I think, you know, I can't put them on the spot, but I think they kind of said, yeah, we got to be about the business of doing better. Next chart, Jim. I have some recommendations for this board. I do suggest that you assign a select person to the cable franchise committee. There's a lot of stuff coming around, you know, Wolfeboro being lucky that we're highly penetrated, but the rest of our towns around our community, not so lucky. I think that you should have somebody working with this team. They're great, great people. There is a couple of requests in the survey verbatims that, you know, why don't we just terminate the contract? Well, we're going to sit down with Mark Puffer and he'll review some of the verbatims and give us his advice of counsel on that. I'll suspend my my input there. I think that my only 2 cents would be this company's made a substantial investment in cable plant, a substantial investment in serving our customers. They do need to do better. I believe they know it, and I don't think booting them out is probably in the best interest of all parties. That's a personal opinion of mine. One of the things I do think needs to be done right now is for the new select person is to schedule a public input session. I believe that there'll be a good opportunity for a healthy dialogue. I suggest, you know, polite, firm, but polite. I think that contract discussions coming out of that input session would be helpful. I also would consider that this Board of Selectmen at some point in time consider putting out an RFP for similar services. We are in this town, we have a non-exclusive contract with Atlantic Broadband. That means anybody else can come in and offer service. The only thing that is required is if they're given the opportunity to offer service in the entire town, they have to meet the same density requirements and other contractual obligations. But there is an opportunity because we have a non-exclusive business relationship both with Atlantic Broadband and with Spectrum Communications. There are other providers out there who could come in and do something in our town. I've just provided you an opportunity to look at a few. The data about our customers without their names, about their service locations without their specific addresses, their feedback in terms of how they feel without their specific names is all available on the website, and people will be able to look at it. So with that, I had a meeting with my cable team the other day. I wished them all well. I'll make sure that all of these data are populated on the site, although Beverly's kind of got it all figured out. So I'll be glad to take any questions.
Thank you, Paul. Board members, any questions for Paul?
Seneca wants to know when his T-Mobile phone is going to get arrived.
Thank you for the update. Thank you for all the work you've done on this, Paul. So greatly appreciated.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to echo that fact. Really like to thank Paul for pushing on this to get this to the point where it is today. This is a lot of great work, and hopefully we can continue that and get to conclusion. But Paul, thank you very much for all of this.
Thanks, Paul.
All right. Next item I have on the agenda is the COVID task force subcommittees.
So, Mr. Chairman, last year we had a series of 6 task forces which reviewed a series of events and town operations in the COVID world, being the summer of 2020. I was not able to attend the emergency management meeting, which was held last week, but at that meeting there was discussion about revitalizing these task forces in advance of not knowing where we're going to be with COVID in the summer of 2021, and to be able to establish some timeframes to make some decisions regarding various events. To review last year's task forces, Task Force 1 was the 4th of July parade and fireworks. Task Force 2 was the Granite Man and Granite Kid. Task Force 3 was the beaches. Task Force 4 was summer camp, the summer day camps and programs. Task Force 5 was temporary event permits. And Task Force 6 is social distancing in the downtown area. With that said, I think Paul and Linda, it would be appropriate for them to speak where they were at that emergency management meeting and I was not, and go from there.
Linda?
You go first, Paul. I'll clean up this time.
Okay.
Okie dokie. The clown with the dustpan and brush following the elephant. Everything Jim said. I think our fire chief and police chief did have some questions about some upcoming events. Particularly 4th of July was kind of the keynote that folks had. There was some discussion there about activity at the beaches, but it was more around, I think it was more around what was going on over at Brewster Beach rather than other beaches, but there was some discussion around that. Again, what Jim said, I think the team is saying we should get together, probably get a stake in the ground or a decision point where we either go or no go on certain events or certain activities. Over to you, Linda.
Yeah, I think the two, I think you kind of hit on it. One is the 4th of July parade. That one you need to make a decision to get in place when and how you're going to make the decision of whether it goes or not goes and what implications are for the fireworks. You know, when do we have to tell that company? The other one would be the temporary event permits that really now are starting to come in, and we should have some kind of idea. I mean, it's like my husband runs the Smith River canoe race. Well, you know, you're going down on the lake and you go down the river. That seems fine, except you can't fit all the canoes and boats on the beach because you're going to be too close together, and you can't do the finish line. So it looks like you really can't do the event. So I think it was just to have some conversations about those events and kind of put a date in which we'll either tell them, yes, go, no, you can't. We're just now saying, depending upon the COVID, guidelines at that time. So those were the two that I think that they felt we needed to really get going on right now, and then we can follow up with the other ones as need be as we get further along. Because whatever we see today, we know things are going to change. It changes every couple of weeks on where we are and what the protocols are going to be. So, Paul, do you have anything else?
No, I think Linda's right about the change. I mean, we had our Dr. Fauci 5 business days ago say that things might be okay in April, and now they might be okay in July. And so it's a moving target. We do have people who want to know clearly what to do, and I think putting together some smart people to sort it out locally is probably the smartest thing that we could do.
Yeah, Dave Bowers, you had your hand up?
Well, the Chamber of Commerce should also input on the summer events also because of the businesses.
Yeah, they're definitely in there on the parade and fireworks one and the social distancing one there, both included in.
Yeah.
Okay, knowing that we're going to have 2 new members come in March here, how do we want to handle this? Do we want to maybe staff those 2 that you want to talk about first, and then come back revisit after town meeting and the election?
I think that makes some sense, Mr. Chairman, to get task force, which would be the parades and fireworks and the temporary event permits. If we can get those staffed, it would be great. I can tell you last year, we had 2 Board of Selectmen members and a member from the Chamber of Commerce on the parade and fireworks, and we had a single Board of Selectmen member, myself and Amy Capone-Lucio on the temporary events permit.
Brad?
I'm going to say yes.
I was thinking of trying to get 2 selectmen on each one of these, which would allow us to bring in our new members and get them onto some of this. So that was just my thought. So they could be on a number of them, and that's part of, bringing them in and being part of who we are. So that was just a thought I had.
Yeah, that could be a good idea. I know on the task force 1 there, the parade fireworks was Paul and Dave Senecal. Dave, are you willing to do that again this year? Or?
Yeah, I will.
And to get that one going, I'd be willing to step in in Paul's place on that one, unless anybody else wants it. But I'd be happy to jump in on that one so we can get that one up and running. Nobody's going to fight me on the spot, huh?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if you're willing to do that, that would be great, and we can get that ball rolling. And then if we get to a point where we do get that those new select board members on, and we need to move people around, we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a
I'd be willing to work on the temporary event with Dave Senecal, because I think that one we're going to need to do some more framing on.
Yep. You willing to work on that one again too, Dave? You and Linda?
Yeah.
Okay. So that gets number 1 and number 5 set up to get going, Mr. Pinio. So then we can assign after the election there, when we get the new members on board, we can fill in, 2, 3, 4. I mean, 2, 4, and 6. 2, yeah. 2, 3, 4, 6. Yep.
We'll have some other reorganizational things too to deal with then, so be a good time to do it.
Sounds good. So if all you new candidates out there listening, we're lining up work for you.
Here we are, we're working on it.
Okay, anything else on that, Mr. Pinio?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
Okay. Committee reports. That's what we're down to now. Business. Oh, other business, I'm sorry, other business first. Do we have any other business to come before the board? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to committee reports. Linda, why don't we start with you if you...
Okay, I went to the emergency operation committee meeting, and that's where we came up with the need to take a look at the task force. I did meet with Paul and Christine looking at Pop Whalen in terms of spectators, but also in terms of Back Bay Hockey wanting to put a tent outside to have 2 additional locker rooms. And I want to thank them for deciding to pull that event to another arena. I think it seemed to me that to have 20 teams going through Pop Whalen in all the locker rooms and having to have outside locker rooms and everything, we were just too small of a facility. And so I think they made a wise decision to do that. I met with the Milfoil Committee. We've looked at the DASH contracts, and tonight we approved Aqualogic. The other company was in Vermont, and there was about a $600 difference a day in the 2 prices. So we're lucky to have Aqualogic. And I went to an EDC meeting, and they were working on a survey that they're sending out to the business community to get a sense of the number of workers they have. And so that's going to go out. And also they're going to put their letter to the editor supporting the 2 doc proposals. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Linda. Dave Senecal.
No meetings to report this time.
All right, Dave, thank you. Dave Bowers.
No report this week.
All right, thank you, Dave. Paul.
Okay, so I went to the EOC meeting. Linda and I attended that. It was good. Again, it's a great town, smart people. Got in front of this COVID thing. Pray to God we stay in front of it. Linda and I did do a site review at Pop Whalen, and I agree with her. It's probably good that Back Bay Hockey decided to take it elsewhere. We were doing everything we could to accommodate, but we just couldn't get there. And so I'm glad they took that decision. I attended the Wolfeboro Community TV board meeting on behalf of Brad this morning. And for those new candidate selectmen, I've assigned Brad Harriman 48 different committees, which he will, and the rest of this board of selectmen will delegate to you new characters when you get in. So that was good. I think they had a good meeting. They talked about getting back into good graces with the IRS, continuing to do underwriting work, which they think they can do without having IRS status all cleared up. And it was good. It was a good conversation. And then finally, my last duty with our cable team was wish them well. Jim and I still have a couple of buttons we need to push, and I'll keep doing that until I'm no longer a selectman. I'll continue to work on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, I had last time I had a planning board meeting. We had one lot merger we approved, and then we went over a lot of most of the work session, talking about our workload, our workshops for this coming year. And I had a Friends of Liberty Museum meeting last week. Talked about a number of things. One of them, they're definitely looking forward to sitting down with Dave and Linda to discuss that MOU and stuff when that can happen and stuff, because they're really looking forward to getting going with the campaign and stuff for the Libby Museum renovation. So other than that, I have nothing else. I appreciate Paul filling in for me this morning. I couldn't make the meeting to the Wolfeboro Community TV. So again, thank you, Paul. And that takes care of committee reports. Town manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple things to report. Playing a lot of catch up from budget season. So we've got a lot of contacts, a lot of meetings that I'm working on scheduling with different stakeholders in town. Working on finalizing the voter's guide. That's just about done. I hope to have that the draft completed tomorrow. A little bit behind schedule, but we're in good shape there. Doing a lot of reading, research. I need to thank Suzanne Ryan for all the documents she provided me regarding Pop Whalen. So doing a lot of research relative to that and its existence as a enterprise fund. Also, just so you're aware, we've engaged with the architect regarding the public safety facility. We will be meeting next week. They've got a schedule that puts them on a path to be able to deliver a product to us with some alternatives for this spring into summer. So that work will be taking place pretty much immediately. So stand by for more information on the alternative options for the public safety building, which really boiled down to this point as a two standalone facilities as an option compared to the single facility. So that work is ongoing. Other than that, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Right. Thank you very much. Questions from the press. Alyssa, you still out here with us?
Yes, I am. Hi, Brad. Let me turn myself on here. Okay. I was at the Wolfeboro Library today to meet with a new children's librarian, Jean Snowden, and I think you all did, a great job with that hire. And for the public, she already has an Instagram account on the website and information on virtual story hours and that sort of thing. And she's doing what she can with the COVID restrictions. She's got some good ideas.
Thanks.
More to come in next week's issue.
Sounds good.
That's
You
it.
good with everything else, Alyssa?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Public input. Second session. Anybody out there want to comment or ask a question? Or
Yes, please, Mr. Chairman. Mary DeVries here. I don't think my video is coming through right now.
Okay, hi, Barry.
I had just a couple comments and maybe just sharing of experience if I could.
Sure.
So as far as temporary event permits, our Chamber of Commerce has submitted some permit applications, but in general, the business community has been reaching out to us with interest in what might be able to happen in the community. So I just wanted to share that the businesses would like, they're telling us that they would like events to be happening in the upcoming months. And then thinking about the Town of Wolfeboro's task force, I was in a meeting this morning with the Commissioner Taylor Caswell of the Business and Economic Affairs for the state of New Hampshire, and he was sharing that the state task force has basically been in pause motion and they've come out of that. So they're just starting to bring recommendations that will then go to the governor. So that it seems like you're right on top of that as far as in coordination with the state. Moving from that, the Atlantic Broadband survey update. just speaking on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, it seems that it's appropriate to hear that the town is working in partnership with Atlantic Broadband, because we see that survey results of this type could be apropos to any other business type, and that it's excellent information for Atlantic Broadband, as it would be for any other business, to just hear from their customers and potential customers. So that's just wonderful. The Lakes Region Hazardous Product Facility collection, a thought just popped into my mind tonight that I wonder if going forward in February, or maybe other months, but in February, the collection site could be in the other half of the railroad station building. Just a thought. And then the only other item I had was the hawkers and peddlers permits. Just wanted to share with you, please, that my experience working for the Chamber of Commerce is that businesses and startups are not necessarily familiar with that opportunity at all. In fact, I have never once had somebody come to me anyway with knowledge of that opportunity. Instead, it's other conversations that lead me to provide them with that concept of perhaps looking into a hawkers and peddlers application. So I don't know if there's some way that the Chamber of Commerce could be available to communicate to people what the opportunity is, and then also how to proceed. So I just want, that's just some things that came up as I was sitting in on your meeting this evening, and I thank you for this time.
Mary?
Right, thank you, Mary.
I have a question for
Yeah.
Mary. Are you going to announce candidates tonight?
Oh, thank you. I did have that written down, Linda, but I wouldn't have done it. So thank you very much. Yes, we are pleased to again present, actually it's the 19th annual candidates night. It will be start at 5:30 p.m. on Wednesday, February 24. It will be held in the Kingswood Arts Center, and that is with great gratitude to the Governor Wentworth Regional School District for accommodating us to hold the forum there. We have 12 people running for contested seats between the town of Wolfeboro elected positions and the Governor Wentworth Regional School District School Board. And we are thankful to have Attorney Randy Walker available to moderate the forum for us again. And very thankful for Wolfeboro Community Television, who is going to be there to create the video. It will be live streamed that evening on YouTube, and also 2 other media outlets, so that anyone interested can view the forum for up to 30 days past February 24th. Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Mary. Do we have anybody else out there for public input? Seeing none, I think the next thing on our agenda would be a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Senical. There he goes.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. I'm not even going to ask for any discussion. Linda?
Yes.
Dave Zenical?
Yeah.
Dave Bowers? Paul?
Yes.
And Brad votes yes also. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening, good rest of the week.
Good evening, everyone.
I forget Paul for earlier.